Sometimes I wonder if everything would have been different if my dad hadn't died that spring morning. I was only 6, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Dad was making pancakes, his Sunday special. He always shaped them into funny faces that made me giggle. Mom was setting the table, humming some tune I can't remember anymore. "Lily, princess, come help your old man flip these masterpieces," Dad called out, waving his spatula like a magic wand. I jumped off the couch, leaving my favorite stuffed bunny behind, and ran to the kitchen. That's when it happened. The spatula clattered to the floor, and Dad clutched his chest, his face twisted in pain. Everything after that is a blur of ambulance sirens, hospital corridors, and Mom crying. Just like that, my father was gone, leaving behind an empty house that felt too big and too quiet. Mom didn't cry for long, though. She met Richard at some community support group for widowed parents. He seemed nice enough, tall, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that reminded me a bit of Dad. Within a year, they were married, and he moved into our house. I was trying to adjust to having a new father figure when Mom dropped another bombshell. She was pregnant. I remember her face glowing with excitement as she told me I was going to be a big sister. I was 8 when Tommy was born, and that's when everything changed. That's when Mom quit her job as an elementary school teacher. "Tommy needs me," she'd say whenever anyone questioned her decision. These early years are crucial for a child's development. I wanted to ask about my early years, about whether they hadn't been crucial too, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I watched as Mom's world gradually shrank until it revolved entirely around Tommy. She'd forget to pack my lunch for school, then act surprised when I mentioned being hungry at dinner. "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie," she'd say distractedly, already turning back to Tommy. "I was so busy with Tommy's doctor's appointment today." It wasn't just once or twice, it became our new normal. Richard noticed. I'd catch him watching Mom with a worried frown as she fussed over Tommy, completely ignoring me at the dinner table. One evening, as I sat alone doing my homework, he sat down beside me. "You know, Lily," he said quietly, helping me with my math problems, "sometimes people get so caught up in one thing that they forget to see what else they might be missing." As Tommy grew older, the tension in our house became impossible to ignore. Richard tried talking to Mom countless times about her obsession with Tommy, but it always ended the same way, with Mom getting defensive and angry. I remember one particular evening when Richard brought it up during dinner. Tommy was about 5, pushing his food around his plate while Mom hovered over him, trying to convince him to eat just one more bite. "Sarah," Richard said, putting down his fork, "we need to talk about this. You can't keep hovering over him like this. He needs to learn to do things on his own." Mom's face immediately hardened. "What are you trying to say? That I'm a bad mother?" "That's not what I meant, and you know it," Richard replied, keeping his voice calm. "But you've got 2 kids here, not 1. And a husband too, by the way." I pretended to be very interested in my mashed potatoes, but I was hanging on every word. "Tommy needs me," Mom snapped. "He's still so young." I was young too, I muttered under my breath, but nobody seemed to hear me. The situation came to a head when Richard suggested enrolling Tommy in Little League Baseball. I was sitting on the stairs, supposedly doing my homework, when I heard them arguing in the kitchen. "Absolutely not." Mom's voice was shrill. "Do you know how dangerous baseball can be? He could get hit by the ball, or twist his ankle, or... For God's sake, Sarah, he needs to experience life. You can't protect him from everything." But Mom wouldn't budge. Instead, she enrolled Tommy in art classes at the community center. I still remember Tommy's sullen face as he sat there, mindlessly dragging his brush across paper while other kids actually tried to learn. He quit after 3 sessions, and Mom blamed the teacher for not understanding her son's creative spirit. Meanwhile, Richard started spending more time with me. Maybe it was his way of balancing out Mom's behavior, or maybe he just saw a kid who needed someone in her corner. He'd take me to my karate classes 3 times a week, sitting through every session, cheering louder than any other parent when I earned my belts. But while I was flourishing under Richard's attention, Tommy was becoming increasingly difficult. He'd leave his room a complete mess, toys and clothes everywhere, and Mom would turn to me with that look I'd come to dread. "Lily, be a dear and clean up Tommy's room," she'd say, not really asking, but telling. One day, Richard caught wind of this arrangement. "She's not his maid, Sarah," he protested. "He needs to learn to clean up after himself." That's when Mom burst into tears, pulling out her ultimate weapon. "I knew it. You love her more than your own son. How can you treat Tommy this way?" I watched Richard's face fall, saw the fight leave his eyes. He looked at me apologetically, then raised his hands in surrender. "Fine, have it your way," he said quietly, walking away. After that, he stopped arguing with Mom about Tommy. But the look he gave me said everything. He hadn't given up on me, even if he'd given up on fighting with Mom. It was a small comfort, but sometimes small comforts are all we have. High school graduation day was bittersweet. As I stood in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd, I spotted Richard beaming proudly. Mom was there too, but she kept checking her phone, probably texting Tommy's babysitter. Later that evening, Richard called me into his study. "I've been saving up," he said, pulling out a folder full of college brochures. "You can go wherever you want, Lily. Sky's the limit." Before I could respond, Mom burst in. "You can't be serious," she exclaimed. "That money should be saved for Tommy's future. He's going to need it more." Richard's face hardened, an expression I'd grown familiar with during these confrontations. "This is non-negotiable, Sarah. I've already made my decision." I ended up choosing Marshall University in West Virginia, far enough to start fresh, but not so far that I couldn't visit occasionally. The day Richard helped me move into my dorm, Mom couldn't come because Tommy had anxiety about her leaving. College life was exactly what I needed. For the first time, I felt free from the shadow of being the less favored child. I called home weekly, but my conversations were mostly with Richard. Mom was always too busy with Tommy. "Your brother's going through a difficult phase," Richard explained during one of our calls. His voice sounded tired. "He's hanging out with these kids from the wrong side of the tracks. I tried getting him involved in some after-school programs, but your mother—" "Let me guess," I interrupted. "She said you were being too hard on him?" "Exactly. Called me a tyrant for suggesting he might need some structure." Richard sighed. "She says I don't understand how sensitive he is." My visits home became less frequent as Tommy's behavior worsened. When I did come, he barely acknowledged my existence, holed up in his room with his video games. The few times I caught glimpses of him, he looked pale and angry, his eyes glued to various screens. After graduation, I landed a job at Deloitte in their consulting division. I stayed in West Virginia, building my career while watching from afar as my brother descended further into his self-imposed isolation. During one of my rare visits home, I tried knocking on his door. "Tommy, want to grab lunch?" My treat. All I got in response was the sound of gunfire from whatever game he was playing. Mom, passing by in the hallway, just shrugged. "He's not feeling social today. He's very stressed, you know." The contrast between our lives couldn't have been starker. While I was pursuing my career goals, Tommy was pursuing virtual achievements, supported by Mom's endless excuses. Richard's disappointed face said it all, but by then, even he had largely given up on trying to intervene. By 27, I had finally saved enough for a down payment on my own place. It wasn't huge, just a one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, but it was mine. The day I got the keys, I couldn't stop smiling. All those years of saving, of brown bag lunches and saying no to designer clothes, had finally paid off. "You all have to come see it," I said during my weekly call home. "I'm having a housewarming party next Saturday. I'll cook dinner, Richard, I'm even making your favorite lasagna." "Wouldn't miss it for the world, kiddo," Richard replied warmly. Mom's voice cut in on the other line. "Oh, honey, I don't think we can make it. Tommy has plans that day." "Plans?" I couldn't keep the skepticism out of my voice. What kind of plans? Very important ones, Mom said vaguely. I could hear Tommy's video game blasting in the background. The day of the housewarming, only Richard showed up. He brought a potted plant and a bottle of wine. Your mother sends her love, he said, but we both knew that was a lie. Over dinner, Richard filled me in on what was really happening at home. Tommy, now 20, hadn't bothered with college and spent his days either gaming or hanging out with his drinking buddies. Richard had tried to help, offering him a position at his construction company. Just as a starting point, you know, Richard explained, twirling pasta on his fork. Everyone needs to start somewhere. But Sarah, he shook his head. Sarah said it would be beneath him. Can you believe that? Said our Tommy was too intelligent for manual labor. Too intelligent to work, but not too intelligent to mooch off his parents? I muttered. Richard gave me a sad smile. I keep trying, Lily. God knows I keep trying. That was the last real conversation we had. 2 years later, I got the call that changed everything. Richard had collapsed at work, massive heart attack, just like my father. By the time I made it to the hospital, he was gone. The funeral was surreal. Mom put on quite a show, sobbing dramatically and telling anyone who would listen what a wonderful husband Richard had been. We were so happy, she wailed. How will we manage without him? I watched her performance with a mix of disgust and pity. Her tears weren't for Richard, they were for herself. I could see the wheels turning behind her grief-stricken facade. Richard had been the sole breadwinner. Without his income, how would she maintain Tommy in the lifestyle to which he'd become accustomed? Tommy didn't even bother to wear a proper suit to the funeral. He showed up in wrinkled khakis and a polo shirt that had seen better days. He spent most of the service staring at his phone while Mom made excuses for him. He's processing his grief in his own way. Standing there at Richard's grave, I couldn't help but think about how history had repeated itself. Another father figure, another heart attack, another funeral. Only this time, I was old enough to see everything clearly, including the fact that Mom's tears were more about her bank account than her broken heart. A year after Richard's death, I had mostly lost touch with Mom and Tommy. What little I knew came from Aunt Linda's occasional calls. They're getting by on Richard's savings, she told me. Your mom sold his Chevrolet last month. The tools from his workshop went before that. I tried not to care. I really did. But when Mom's number flashed on my phone one Tuesday evening, my heart still skipped a beat. Lily? Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I need you to come home, please. Something in her tone made me book a flight for the next day. When I pulled up to our old house, I barely recognized the place. The once pristine lawn Richard had meticulously maintained was overgrown with weeds. Paint peeled from the window frames, and one of the shutters hung crooked. But the house wasn't the only thing that had aged poorly. Mom opened the door, and I had to suppress a gasp. The vibrant woman I remembered had been replaced by someone who looked 20 years older than her actual age. Deep wrinkles lined her face, and her hair, which she'd always kept perfectly colored and styled, showed stark gray roots. Come in, she said, leading me into the living room. The house smelled musty, and dishes were piled in the sink. A thin layer of dust covered everything. This from the woman who used to make me rewash plates if she spotted a single water spot. Mom, what's going on? I asked, settling onto the couch. A spring dug into my thigh, another thing Richard would have fixed immediately. She broke down almost immediately. We're running out of money, Lily. My pension barely covers the utilities, and the savings. She twisted her hands in her lap. They're almost gone. What about Tommy? Is he helping with expenses? Mom's face did this complicated dance between embarrassment and defensiveness. He's looking for work. It's not his fault, these employers, they just don't understand him. The last place wanted him to start at 8 a.m. You know Tommy's not a morning person. And the one before that expected him to do manual labor. With his intelligence, I felt my jaw tightening. Mom, at his age and with no experience, he can't exactly be picky about. You don't understand, she cut me off, her voice rising to that familiar pitch that always preceded a Tommy defense. Then, abruptly, her tone changed. Lily, we need your help. We won't survive without it. I hate to ask, but you're doing so well in your career. I knew what was coming. Part of me wanted to refuse, to remind her of all the times she'd chosen Tommy over me. But looking at her worn face, the trembling hands, the desperate eyes, I couldn't. How much do you need? When she said $1,500 per month, I nearly choked. That was a significant chunk of my salary. But I found myself nodding anyway. Where's Tommy now? I asked as I prepared to leave, already regretting my decision. Oh, he's at a job interview, Mom brightened slightly. A very promising position with a tech company. Through the window, I could see Tommy's bedroom light on, and the familiar flicker of his computer screen. Some things never changed. True to my word, I set up an automatic transfer of $1,500 to Mom's account every month. Each time I saw that deduction from my bank balance, I told myself it was the right thing to do. Even if it meant postponing my own plans for a bigger apartment or a new car. I started visiting more frequently, though each visit felt like walking into a time capsule. Tommy was always there, either glued to his computer screen or sprawled on the couch with a beer in hand. How's the job search going? I'd ask. Mind your own business, he'd snap, or sometimes just grunt and turn up the volume on his game. During the holidays, I couldn't stand seeing the living room in such disrepair. The wallpaper was peeling, and there was a water stain on the ceiling that would have driven Richard crazy. So I spent my Christmas bonus hiring contractors to fix it up. When Mom sprained her ankle in February, I called to check on her. Oh, it's not so bad, she said, though I could hear the pain in her voice. Is Tommy helping you? He's busy with some online interviews. I hired a home health aide the next day. The money I'd been saving for a vacation went to cover her wages for the next 3 weeks. Then came the day I walked into the house and found a stranger sprawled across our sofa. She looked like she'd stepped out of a reality TV show, fake nails that could double as weapons, heavy makeup, and clothes that left little to the imagination. She was scrolling through her phone, surrounded by empty chip bags and soda cans. Who are you? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew the answer. Tommy emerged from his room. This is Candy, he announced. My fiancée. She lives here now. Candy didn't even look up from her phone, just popped her gum loudly. I watched in disbelief as she reached into the grocery bag I'd just brought and helped herself to the premium cookies I'd bought for Mom. Nice to meet you too, I muttered under my breath. Later that evening, I called Mom to get her take on the situation. Oh, Lily. She sounded more animated than I'd heard her in months. Isn't it wonderful? Tommy's finally settling down. Candy's been such a good influence on him. He hasn't gone out drinking with those awful friends in weeks. That's because she's drinking all my imported beer at home, I thought, remembering the empty bottles I'd spotted in the recycling bin. But I held my tongue. And he's talking about getting a job, Mom continued excitedly. Candy's cousin knows someone at a tech startup. Tommy says it could be his big break. I made non-committal noises while thinking about the dozens of big breaks Tommy had mentioned over the years. But Mom was so happy, living in her bubble of perpetual hope, that I didn't have the heart to burst it. My next visit home started like any other. I juggled grocery bags as I pushed open the front door, only to stop dead in my tracks. The house looked like a tornado had torn through it, dirty dishes piled high in the sink, takeout containers scattered across every surface, and clothes strewn about the living room floor. Candy lay sprawled on the couch, perfectly manicured nails tapping away at her phone screen. She didn't even look up as I set down the groceries. You know, I said, my voice sharp, you live here rent-free, eating food that I pay for. The least you could do is wash a dish or two. She looked up slowly, a smirk playing across her heavily glossed lips. Who do you think you are to come in here giving orders? This isn't your house. I grew up here, I shot back. You're just a guest. That's when she laughed, a harsh, triumphant sound that made my skin crawl. Oh honey, you've got it all wrong. This house belongs to Tommy now. Your mom signed everything over to him. There's a will and everything. I found Mom in the kitchen, organizing coupons she never used. Is it true? My voice sounded strange in my own ears. Did you make a will leaving everything to Tommy? She wouldn't meet my eyes at first, fiddling with the papers in front of her. Then something seemed to harden in her expression. Yes, she said flatly. It's true. I don't understand. The words came out barely above a whisper. I'm the one helping you. I'm the one sending money every month. Tommy doesn't work, doesn't contribute anything. Don't you dare talk about your brother that way. Mom's voice rose sharply. You don't understand him, you never have. Understand what? That he's a parasite? That he's perfectly content to live off my money while his girlfriend trashes our home? Oh, stop being so dramatic. Mom's face twisted into something I didn't recognize. You want to know the truth? I never loved you the way I love Tommy. He's better than you in every way that matters. And I don't want to see you here anymore. The words hit like physical blows. All these years, I'd told myself that Mom did love me, she just showed it differently. That somewhere beneath her obsession with Tommy, she cared about me too. Now I knew better. I turned and walked out, Candy's triumphant laughter following me down the hall. 21 years of hoping, of making excuses, of trying to earn my mother's love, all of it ended with the quiet click of a door closing behind me. The drive home from Mom's house was a blur. I don't remember the 4-hour trip, don't remember climbing the stairs to my apartment, don't even remember sitting down on my couch. But I do remember the moment of clarity that came as I stared at my phone's banking app. The automatic transfer to Mom's account, $1,500, every month for the past year. My finger hovered over the screen for a moment before I decisively clicked Cancel Recurring Payment. For the next few weeks, I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the hole in my budget that suddenly felt like an opportunity rather than a burden. I started researching investment options for the money I'd been sending home. Maybe I could finally start saving for a house of my own, a real house, not just an apartment. Then, exactly 1 month after my last visit home, Mom called. The money didn't come through, she said without preamble. No hello, no how are you? There must be some mistake with the bank. There's no mistake, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice was. I canceled the transfers. There was a moment of stunned silence before she exploded. You what? How dare you? After everything I've done for you. I actually laughed at that. Everything you've done for me? Like what, Mom? Forgetting my existence? Forcing me to be Tommy's maid? Telling me you never loved me? That's different. She was using her familiar Tommy defense voice. You know I was upset. But you can't just stop helping us. We're counting on that money. Tommy and Candy are planning a vacation to Cancun, they need. A vacation? I interrupted, my voice rising. Tommy needs a vacation from what exactly? Playing video games? Drinking beer? Let me tell you something, Mom. Tommy doesn't need a vacation, he needs a job. How dare you speak about your brother that way? You're just jealous because... Because what? Because you left everything to him? Fine, you made your choice. Now he can take care of you. You ungrateful, mercenary little... The rest of her tirade dissolved into a stream of accusations and demands. I let her rant for a moment before speaking again. Goodbye, Mom. Don't call me again. I blocked her number before she could respond. But Mom wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, the messages started pouring in through every possible channel. Facebook messages about how she was struggling to pay bills. Instagram comments about what a terrible daughter I was. Emails detailing all the sacrifices she'd made for me, most of which I couldn't remember actually happening. Tommy joined in too, sending aggressive texts about how I was destroying the family. "Mom's crying because of you," he wrote. "You better start sending money again or else." I blocked him too, but not before replying, "Here's a crazy idea, try getting a job." Candy even tried reaching out through LinkedIn, of all places, with a long message about how I was breaking my poor mother's heart and how Tommy was too sensitive to handle the stress of work right now. I had to admire her creativity, at least. It's been 6 months now. I don't know how they're doing, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel guilty about that. Maybe they've finally realized that Tommy needs to support himself. Maybe they're still waiting for me to cave in and start sending money again. Maybe they've found someone else to manipulate. The truth is, I don't need to know. What I do know is that the $1,500 I used to send them every month has gone into a down payment fund for my own house. I know that I sleep better at night, no longer awakened by angry messages or guilt-tripping calls. I know that Richard would be proud of me for finally standing up for myself. The other day, I drove past a construction site and saw a "now hiring" sign. For a moment, I thought about taking a picture and sending it to Tommy. But then I just smiled and kept driving. Their problems aren't my problems anymore. Finally, after all these years, I'm free.
"5 years have passed since I began regretting my divorce. Suddenly, my former in-laws got in touch, and now I'm about to reunite with my ex-wife. With a mix of emotions, I broke the silence with, 'Long time, no see,' but her response surprised me. 'My name is Keith Miller, a regular 40-year-old office worker. 5 years ago, I divorced my wife, Lily, whom I had been with since our student days. I met her in high school when she moved into my neighborhood, and our families became close. Lily was bright and lively, always making everyone smile. I was a serious and somewhat gloomy boy, but Lily befriended me, and our relationship continued through college. When we were 21, our families had dinner together. Lily's father, a bit tipsy, joked, 'There's talk of Lily marrying the son of my company president.' Emboldened by the alcohol, I blurted out, 'I'm the one who will marry Lily.' I must have had feelings for her from the beginning. Amid everyone's teasing, I still remember her blushing in the corner of the room. True to my declaration, we got married when we were 28. We supported each other's careers, and our families were overjoyed. Keith, true to your word, as expected, Lily teased me about that night at the dinner. Our newlywed life was blissful. Just having a wife waiting at home made all the work stress disappear. Since we had known each other for so long, we never ran out of things to talk about, and her cheerfulness brightened my mood. However, those days didn't last. After I turned 30, my work became busier and business trips became more frequent. As I got busier, I found myself unable to focus on our family life. Maybe it's time we think about having kids. Lily would hint, but I couldn't respond. It wasn't that I had stopped liking her. I thought maybe when work calms down, we could return to how things used to be. But finally, when we were 35, after a typical business trip and preparing for the next, came home to find the house unusually tidy. There was Lily with a resolved look on her face. "Let's get a divorce. If we continue like this, even the happy memories will turn sad." Her expression was one I had never seen in all our years together. That was when I realized how selfish I had been. Regrets came too late. We went through with the divorce, and I lost contact with Lily and her parents. The days that followed were terrible. I went through the motions at work, but my heart wasn't in it. Colleagues, aware of the situation, tried to introduce me to new people, but I wasn't interested. After all, Lily was the only woman I had ever known. I lived as if crushed by guilt. 5 years have passed. I am now turning 40 alone and feeling lonelier day by day. The regrets only grow, and memories of Lily flash in front of me like scenes from a past life. Remembering the days we met, the evenings we spent walking home together, and our newlywed life. The longer the relationship, the heavier the loneliness that weighs on me. I was sure I would never see her again. One day, as I was slowly coming to terms with this, I got a call from Lily's parents. They said they wanted to meet and talk. Seeing them much older made me realize how time had passed, and I was no different. They didn't scold me, but gently asked, "Keith, what do you think about Lily?" I shared my feelings of regret and apology for the past 5 years. They just poured out of me. I wanted to see her just one more time. At that moment, her father looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Would you remarry Lily?" His words reached my ears clearly, and every other sound was blocked out. As hard as I tried, my brain couldn't catch up. Seeing my stunned expression, he started to say, "If you are," then his wife cut him off, saying, "Let's wait until you meet Lily," murmuring with downcast eyes. They took me, and we got into a taxi. We arrived at a major university hospital. I could only follow them, not understanding why. The person lying in the hospital bed was indeed Lily. Her face was calm as she slept, not showing the 5 years that had passed. She even seemed younger. Her mother gently approached the bedside and spoke to her. Lily opened her eyes sleepily and looked straight at me. "It's been a while," I managed to say. "Who are you?" She definitely said that. Thinking it was some kind of joke, I looked at her parents' faces, but they both looked down. "It's me, Keith." At my words, her eyes widened. "Are you Keith?" From behind me, her father whispered quietly, "Lily has lost her memory." It felt as if time had stopped. I doubted if it was a dream, but the trembling of my hands told me it was real. After our separation, Lily had returned to her hometown and was working there. However, one day after work, she was involved in an accident and rushed to the emergency room. She broke several bones in her upper body, but was not in danger of losing her life. When she woke up, she had lost all her memories. They said it might be temporary and could come back soon. Her father had taken me outside the hospital room to talk. It was hard to believe, but her expressions and actions made it understandable. Still, her memory remained vague. She could barely remember her childhood and family, but other details were lost. Lily's memory was jumbled, with names and faces eluding her. Recently, though, there had been a change. Her father told me that she had started to remember fragments of her days with me, but the timeline was messed up and her memories were all mixed up. However, she didn't remember my face or that we had been married and divorced. She only remembered the happy times she had with me. Those words made my body tremble. Lily thought of me as a lover, not as her husband. Her parents couldn't bring themselves to tell her the truth. After discussing it, her parents decided it was best for her to meet me since she wanted to see me. Whether to tell her about the divorce was left up to me. If I told her, she might remember everything, but she might also drift away from me again. Uncertain what to do, I found myself alone with her in the hospital room. "Do you really not remember?" "I'm sorry. I remembered that someone named Keith was important to me, but I can't recall his face." She spoke with eyes as pure as a young girl's. Looking into her eyes, I recalled the days from when we met to when we parted, but those memories weren't the same as hers. "So you can't be sure I'm Keith?" She smiled and said, "If my parents say so, it must be true. Besides, I can't remember, but I'm sure you are Keith." Then she shared with me all the memories she could recall. There was nothing incorrect, but she had completely forgotten our fights and the days before our divorce. There was no way I could tell her. Lily, with her fragmented memory, loved me as she had in the past and cared for me, the very thing I had hoped for those 5 years. But it was just because she had lost her memory. Feeling incredible guilt, I asked, "Can I come here again?" She answered, "Of course." I couldn't return her smile as well as she did. After that, I visited her frequently. Her parents told me, "We just want to make the current Lily happy, so please keep visiting her." Could you tell me more about us? I want to remember more. It must have been happy days, she often said. Each time, I only spoke of the good memories. Couldn't tell her about how I had neglected her, not in front of her smiling face. Those days continued for months. I explained the situation to my parents, and they also met Lily a few times, naturally keeping our marriage a secret. However, her memory never returned. She'd enjoyed her days with me. Finally, she was about to be discharged. She would still need regular checkups, but there were no issues with her daily life. In the end, I never could tell her the truth, neither about our marriage nor the divorce. I felt a guilt even greater than the regrets of those 5 years. Then, a while after her discharge, a family gathering was arranged to celebrate her return home. Everyone was lying to keep her fragile happiness intact. However, perhaps relaxed by her healthy appearance, her father slipped up, saying, "It's been since the wedding that we all gathered like this." The atmosphere froze in an instant. "Whose wedding?" Lily asked. Her parents quickly tried to change the subject, but the damage was done. I understood everyone's feelings, but ultimately it was my responsibility. Besides, I didn't want to lie to Lily, the woman I loved, anymore. "Actually, we used to be married," I said, standing up and looking straight into her surprised eyes. "But we got divorced. It was my fault." I couldn't stop the tears of shame. Everyone else in the room was silent, and only the sound of my sobbing filled the space. "What do you mean?" Lily's trembling voice came through. I told her everything about our marriage and how I had neglected her, which led to our divorce. "I'm truly sorry. I took advantage of the fact that you didn't remember. I was ready for whatever she would say. In the end, I was just being selfish and causing trouble for everyone. I shouldn't have been the one crying there at that moment." Lily gently placed her hand on my shoulder. "Then let's get married again, Keith." Her voice was unbelievably kind. Led by her hand, I raised my head to meet her eyes. "Indeed, I had forgotten your face and our marriage, and I still can't remember clearly. But I do remember that I loved you." Her firm voice continued to resonate in the room. "And I still love you now. I want to be loved by you again, including all the sad memories." Her words soaked into my heart. The regrets and guilt I had wouldn't disappear. But finally, I saw a bright path forward, the direction I needed to go. "Lily, let's get married." I hugged her while crying with sobs. Our parents also cried tears of joy as they blessed us. Lily held me tightly and whispered in my ear, "It feels like this has happened before." "Yes, but I won't let you forget again," I promised her. A few days later, we officially remarried and started living together anew. Lily's memory isn't perfect, but now that's okay. If there's something she forgets, I'll teach her. My role isn't just that. I aim to make the fun memories even more fun and to transform the sad memories into happy ones. This is what I have vowed in my heart.
My name is Lacey, and I want to share the story of my difficult marriage. It all began 5 years ago when I met Aaron, setting the stage for a journey I never anticipated. I was excelling in my career as a senior marketing manager at a prestigious tech company, a job that brought immense satisfaction and a handsome salary. I was the breadwinner of our household for a while, as Aaron faced intermittent unemployment. Aaron was pursuing his dream of becoming a writer, and I was his biggest cheerleader. He had a charm that could make anyone smile, and writing was his passion. I believed he would make it big someday. Despite my own demanding career, I made sure to support his dream all the way. We often stayed up late, discussing the life we were going to build together. Aaron sometimes took odd jobs to help out, but I always told him not to worry. I was happy to support us while he figured things out. We had an unshakable faith in each other's dreams and were ready to ride the ups and downs together. Now let me tell you about Hazel, my sister-in-law, who lived in the captivating city of Auckland, New Zealand. While we weren't extremely close, I considered her part of our extended family. Aaron had always been fond of his little sister despite their age gap. She was only 23, and Aaron often shared stories of their childhood, showing how deeply he cared for her. Though Hazel and I hadn't formed a particularly tight bond, I cherished the moments we shared during family gatherings. She had a youthful zest for life. Hazel's decision to study abroad was a bold one, and everyone supported it. One evening, after a grueling day at the office, I came home with aching feet, ready to relax. But Aaron, with his cheeky smile, had other plans. "Lacey, there's something I need to discuss with you," he said. "Of course, Aaron. What's on your mind?" "It's about Hazel. Her health has taken a serious hit, and the medical expenses in Auckland are astronomical. She reached out to me for help. Can we send her some money?" "Absolutely, Aaron. What happened to her?" "She's been dealing with some stomach issues, and the doctors are running tests to figure out what's wrong." "Oh no, poor Hazel. We'll definitely help her." "Thanks, babe. I hate to burden you with this, but she's my sister, and I can't stand the thought of her suffering. I've been between jobs for a while now, and my savings are running low." Hazel just graduated and is actively looking for a job. But it's not easy for her in her field. "Family comes first, Aaron, and we'll make sure she gets the help she needs." "How much does she need?" "Just $5,000. I know it's a lot. We'll tighten our belts if we have to. It's the least we can do." "You're amazing, Lacey. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I find a stable job." "I hate that it's come to this, but I'm so grateful for your support." "Don't worry about paying me back, Aaron. Family sticks together no matter what." Without a second thought, I agreed to send the money. It was a decision made out of love, compassion, and a belief that family always comes first. I saw the genuine concern in Aaron's eyes for his sister's well-being and couldn't bear to see him burdened by worry. After all, what good was the money I earned if I couldn't use it to help the people I cared about the most? I have always believed that wealth holds no real value unless it's used to make a positive impact on the lives of those you love. It wasn't about the amount or the inconvenience, it was about standing by Aaron's side and showing solidarity with his family. So I transferred the money to Hazel. Little did I know that this simple act of generosity would trigger a series of events that would turn my life upside down. A few weeks later, Aaron informed me that his mom, Sherry, was making a spontaneous trip to Auckland to be with Hazel. He explained that Sherry was deeply concerned about her daughter's health and that he needed to drive her to the airport. As soon as I heard this, I knew I wanted to accompany them. I wanted to meet Sherry before her flight, offering her some support and comfort during this stressful time. Even though Aaron said I didn't need to, I insisted. "So, Aaron, how's Hazel doing exactly?" "What's her diagnosis?" "Well, it's a bit complicated, Lacey. She's been having these stomach issues, and the doctors are still trying to figure it out." "Yes, dear. They haven't pinpointed the exact cause yet. It's been quite a struggle for her." "Stomach issues? That sounds vague, but she's been going to the doctor regularly, right?" Yes. She's seen a few specialists, but they haven't concluded anything yet. It's been frustrating, darling. We are hopeful she will get better soon. I'm going there to take better care of her. That's all a mother can do, you know." "I hope so too. It's just strange that it's been a while and they haven't reached a diagnosis yet, for someone as young as her to have such issues." "Let it go, Lacey. Let's just focus on getting Mom to the airport right now." While Sherry was away in Oakland, life continued as usual. I headed to work while Aaron stayed home, working on his novel. Another month passed, and then Aaron approached me with another request for money. He explained that Hazel was relocating for a new job and needed financial help for her new apartment. Sherry was still in Oakland with her, and from what I knew, Sherry was wealthy enough to support Hazel comfortably. Despite my doubts, I couldn't bring myself to question Aaron's family. I quietly sent Hazel the requested $3,000, hoping this time it would truly benefit her. But then, a week later, Aaron dropped a bombshell that left me utterly flabbergasted. "Lacey, I need to ask you for something big." What is it, Aaron? I need you to send my sister $50,000. $50,000? Aaron, that's half of my annual salary. Why on earth would Hazel need that much money? Hazel's health is deteriorating rapidly. It's a serious stomach condition, and the doctor recommends surgery. She's in pain, and we can't wait any longer. I get that, Aaron, but why can't you just tell me exactly what's wrong with her? It's so frustrating not knowing. You're always so vague about it. And why couldn't Sherry help with the $3,000 last time? First, it was for a diagnosis, then an apartment, and now a surgery. Sherry has her own expenses, Lacey. She's been helping Hazel too, but this situation is just beyond what any of us expected. I understand, but it's just so hard to keep giving money without knowing where it's going. It's complicated, Lacey. I wish I could explain it better, but it's a medical thing, and Hazel's privacy matters too. I'm not asking for every detail, just something more than some stomach issue, Aaron. Lacey, please, this is about her life. I can't believe you're questioning this. I'm not questioning Hazel's health. I just want some proof. You think I would lie about my own sister's health? I cannot believe you're being so heartless about this. I am not being heartless, Aaron. I am scared. I need to protect our future too. I can't drain our savings without knowing more. You know what, Lacey? If you can't trust me on this, maybe we don't have a future together. I would want a divorce if you don't help me. Are you seriously threatening me with divorce over this? I thought you would support me when my family needs it the most. I want to support your family, but I also need to know I'm not being taken advantage of. If you won't share the truth, I can't keep sending money blindly. You're unbelievable, Lacey. Fine, do what you want, but remember you are making this choice. Don't go around telling everyone that I left you when it's completely your fault. I plopped down on the couch, feeling the weight of Aaron's request pressing on me. Thoughts swirled in my head like a blender on high speed. Why all the secrecy? First, it was for Hazel's diagnosis, then an apartment, and now surgery. It just didn't add up. I sat there wrestling with my thoughts. On one hand, there was my undying love for Aaron. I didn't want to see him hurt or upset, and family always came first for me. But on the other hand, something just didn't feel right. I needed some proof, some clarity, but all I got were vague explanations. In the end, my love for Aaron and my sense of family loyalty won out. I made the payment to Hazel. She texted me a thank you note. As the sun rose the next morning, I broke the news to Aaron. I'm sorry for doubting you, Aaron. I transferred the money to Hazel. You did? Lacey, you are the best. I'm sorry for last night. The divorce thing just came out of my mouth. I didn't really mean it. No matter how hard I tried to play along, something just didn't sit right. Even after sending Hazel the money, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. Aaron had threatened me with divorce the previous night, but once I sent the money, he transformed back into Mr. Charming. I couldn't ignore it. Why all the secrecy about Hazel's health? Why wasn't Sherry stepping up to help her own daughter when she was struggling? I loved Aaron and his family, but these nagging questions wouldn't leave me alone. In an attempt to clear my head, I decided to meet up with Amani, my best friend. We chose the Cozy Cafe, our haven for heart-to-heart talks. I needed that comforting ambience more than ever to ease my troubled mind. So did I miss anything exciting at that dinner party you mentioned last night? I asked as we settled in. Oh, you missed out. It was a blast. Jenny wore this stunning red dress that would make anyone jealous. You know, the usual stuff, food, gossip, and a lot of dancing. Typical Jenny, making an entrance. Why weren't you there, by the way? Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Aaron and I had a fight. No way, Lacey. What's going on? Well, you know my sister-in-law, Hazel in New Zealand, right? She's been asking for money, claiming it's for her health issues. Yeah, I remember seeing her at your wedding. She was just a kid then. What's her deal? Something feels off. I sent her some money before, but now Aaron's asking me to send a huge chunk of my salary, and he threatened to divorce me if I didn't. Wait, that does not sound right. That was a shitty move on Aaron's part. Did you try talking to Hazel directly? I did leave her a few texts, but she was so vague about it. She just thanked me for the money and stuff. I don't know much about her anyway. You know, sometimes people spill more on social media than they intend to. Have you checked Hazel's profiles? What is she up to? Hazel isn't exactly on Facebook or Instagram. She's always been quite private. That is strange for a 23-year-old not to have any social media presence. Let me put my stalking skills to use. I took a quick break to grab the blueberry muffins and coffee we ordered from the counter, hoping to ease the tension. When I returned, Amani's face looked like she had seen a ghost. I leaned in and couldn't help but ask, "What's got you looking so shocked? Isn't this Hazel? There she is on Instagram. Strange how I couldn't find her at first." "Well, maybe she blocked you. Why would she do that?" "Take a look at her account. You're not going to like what you see." I started scrolling through Hazel's Instagram. "Amani, you will not believe this. Hazel was at a Dua Lipa concert just a week ago. What on earth is going on? Not to mention how expensive those front row tickets would be." My heart sank as I scrolled through Hazel's Instagram profile. There she was living a life that seemed far from the struggles Aaron had described. Fancy restaurants, designer bags and clothes, trips to Europe, and photos with internet personalities. Nothing about her life appeared to match the dire situation Aaron had painted. The final blow came when I opened her Instagram story, showing Hazel having a luxurious lunch with Sherry at an upscale restaurant just 4 hours ago. Her follower count stood at around 20,000, a number that made her a budding Instagram influencer. How could someone with a substantial online presence who seemed to enjoy a life of luxury be in dire financial straits as Aaron had claimed? "Girl, she's flaunting a Gucci bag and your husband claims she's broke. You'll definitely need to have a serious talk with Aaron." "You're right, Amani. I need to go. See you later." I dashed back home, my head swirling with thoughts. But Aaron was nowhere in sight. I couldn't sit still, so I restlessly paced the living room, my heart racing. Finally, Aaron walked through the door. "Hey baby, how was your day with Amani? You're home early." It was very educational. "I learned about a lot of things today." "That's different. I just went for a walk to hit my daily step goal." "Nice. You seem upset. Is everything all right with Amani?" "Oh, come on, Aaron. Did you know about this or not?" "Know about what?" I pulled out the screenshots of Hazel's photos that Amani had sent me. Aaron's face turned pale as he gazed at the screenshots. I could see the regret in his eyes. Where did you find these?" "It doesn't matter where I found them. The question is, did you know? Look me in the eyes and admit you've been keeping things from me." Aaron nodded reluctantly. "Yes, I have." "Why in the world would you lie about something like this? And where did all the money I worked hard for go?" "It's a complicated situation. I'm not accepting that as an answer. You better start talking." "Hazel needed money because she didn't finish college. She dropped out." "What? And who was going to tell me that?" "You said she graduated." "Yeah, I never told you." I lied. "She wanted to become an influencer and needed money to maintain that lifestyle. I thought I could help her out." "So you sent her money so she could splurge on designer clothes and bags and build a fake social media life? You don't understand, Lacey. She realized college wasn't for her. So there was no illness, no surgery, no new job, and no new apartment. You lied to me, took the money I worked hard for, and threw it at your sister who just wanted to live a glamorous social media fantasy." "What about Sherry? Why did she fly out to Oakland?" "She's no saint. They come from a family of liars. They are actually planning to fly to Paris for an influencer event on Mother's Day. It's a thing where everyone brings their mother as their date. I can't believe you tried to sell me the story that your sister was seriously ill when, in reality, you needed money for these first world problems. Please forgive me, Lacey. And then you threatened to leave me. Aaron, you are such a manipulator." "I'm sorry. I seriously did not mean it, babe. Please, can I do anything to make it up to you?" "You want to make it up to me? Okay, let's divorce." "You can't be serious." "Yes, you threatened me with divorce, but you know what? Now I genuinely desire a divorce." Life got really messy at home. Aaron and I were living in different corners of our own house. I needed a break from more than lies, so I booked a flight to my parents' place. My flight was in 2 days, but then, just when I thought things could not get crazier, Hazel herself rang me up one morning as I was having my coffee. I stared at my phone, wondering what on earth she wanted. Finally, I answered. "Lacey, you must listen carefully. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into." "Hazel, what are you talking about?" "If you think about divorcing Aaron, it won't end well for you. You'll regret it. I can't keep sending you money for your so-called needs." "You don't understand the situation, Lacey. I have plans, and they involve you staying married to Aaron." The moment she started talking, I had this brilliant idea. I activated the recording feature on my phone, making sure to capture every word she said. You have no choice, Lacey. Be a supportive sister-in-law or face the consequences. Threats won't change my mind. You think you can just walk away, Lacey? You have no idea who you're dealing with. If you dare to divorce my brother, I'll make sure your life becomes a living hell. I have ways and connections you can't even imagine. Well, Hazel, it seems like you have your bag of threats, but I have something too. You see, I've been recording this entire conversation. Recording? You can't be serious. Oh, but I am, and now I'm giving you 1 month to return every cent you took from me. Otherwise, say goodbye to that online empire you were trying to build. I'll leak this recording and make sure each one of your followers hears the truth. Lacey, please don't do something drastic. Okay, just give me some time and I'll pay you back. I promise. 1 month, Hazel. Don't test my patience again. In the end, I did get the money back from Hazel. She wired it to my account a day before the 1 month deadline expired. Aaron and I. Well, we could not fix what was broken, so I went ahead and filed for divorce, which let me tell you was not a walk in the park. But hey, sometimes you have to do what is right for you. Being single again has its perks. Work is more exciting, socializing is a blast, and I'm living life on my own terms. I bought myself a new apartment, a place I can call my own. My family and friends often ask me how I manage to keep my spirits high through all that craziness. I just give them a huge smile and say, when people cross lines with you, sometimes you have to cross some lines too. Don't play the victim. Take control of your life and your happiness. Emily's first anniversary of passing was on a gloomy, cloudy day. After the annual commemorative mass at church, Samantha and I went home together and cleaned the portrait frames. They looked happy, smiling. She looks so happy, Samantha said, gazing at the two portraits. Yeah, right, I replied. Clasping her hands, she closed her eyes next to me. Tom, I'm sorry. I've fallen in love with someone else. Please forgive me. After saying that, she looked straight at me and continued, please marry me. My name is John Sinclair. I'm 35 and work in a factory making automotive parts. The job involves a lot of intricate tasks and often leaves me with stiff shoulders, so I've been enjoying jogging on weekends. It's true that I get tired afterward, but running and sweating out clears my mind. Thus, I had made it a routine to run in the local park every weekend. That day, I put on my sneakers and headed out for a jog as usual. It was a beautifully sunny morning, perfect for a deep breath of fresh air. I started out full of energy, sprinting away. However, after tens of minutes, I noticed the weather turning. The forecast was for clear skies, though. As I continued running, drops of rain began to fall. Reluctantly, I looked for a place to take shelter. That's when I saw a woman sitting down on the jogging path in the same park. What's wrong? I normally wouldn't approach a stranger, but I couldn't just leave someone sitting in the rain. Oh, I'm all right, thank you, she said. Did you hurt yourself? I asked, noticing she was holding her right ankle in pain. She looked about my age, slender and stylish. It seems I've twisted it a bit, she replied. When I checked her ankle, it was quite swollen. I applied some cooling spray to the affected area and draped a towel over her head, offering to carry her. No, it's all right. I'm too heavy, she protested. But you can't walk, right? I'll just carry you to a covered spot, I insisted. Saying that, I lifted her up by her arms. We reached a covered rest area in the park where I gently set her down. Thank you very much, she said. No worries. I might as well rest here until the rain stops, I replied. Her name was Samantha Rio. Despite looking very young, I was surprised to hear she was actually 48. It felt like I was meeting a real-life ageless beauty for the first time. She was very cheerful, and we hit it off as if we'd known each other for ages. She had married young and had a daughter. My daughter's already eligible to marry, but she still doesn't have a boyfriend, which worries me. Samantha laughed as she said that, clearly as a mother. Eventually, the rain stopped and the sun came out. I carried her to the main road and got her into a taxi. Although I felt more tired than during my usual jogging, it had been a pleasant time. Having exchanged contacts, she called me that night after seeing a doctor. Thank you so much for today. If it's all right with you, would you like to meet my daughter sometime? The unexpected offer left me a bit bewildered. However, Samantha was such a great person that I really wanted to meet her daughter too. I had been harshly dumped by a previous girlfriend after giving my all for her. I was casually discarded as a boring man. Due to that, I had some trauma with relationships, but for some reason, I felt no weariness towards Samantha and her daughter. Her daughter, named Emily, was bright and always smiling, just like her mother. We hit it off the moment we met and naturally progressed into a relationship. Samantha's husband had passed away from illness 10 years ago, so it had been just the two of them teaming up in life. They always welcomed me warmly, and I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with the three of us. After dating Emily for 6 months, I proposed. Of course, she accepted, saying, "John, let's make a happy home together." I moved in with them. However, that blissful life didn't last long. At her first medical checkup after getting married, cancer was discovered in Emily. I was incredibly down, but Samantha encouraged me with her strong demeanor. "She will be fine. Let's believe," she said. Emily quickly entered a tough battle with her illness. "I'll be fine. I won't die," she would say, her endlessly bright and positive attitude encouraging me. Although her battle with the disease was fierce, she bravely fought on. All I could do was support her by her side. Despite the treatment, she passed away unexpectedly. Both Samantha and I couldn't accept the reality, feeling as if our souls had been drained. "Emily, why did you have to die?" Samantha was exhausted from the funeral and hardly eating anything. "There's no point in me living without Emily," she said. It was shocking to hear such words from her, who had always been positive. "I've been left behind by everyone, by Tom and Emily as well," she cried. Tears streamed down Samantha's face, and even standing seemed painful for her. "I'm here for you, Samantha," I said, surprising myself with those words, hoping to bring her back to her senses. "Tom, thank you. You're still young, so don't worry about Emily and find someone new," she said with a weak smile. Emily was such a good-natured person that she surely would want me to be happy. "Thank you, but I really can't think about that yet," I replied. Although Emily was gone, I continued to live in Samantha's home. I took advantage of her words that I could stay as long as I wanted. We shared household duties, and our unusual living situation continued just between the two of us. Yet, that life felt so comfortable that I sometimes even thought I could stay that way forever. Although I sometimes wondered how it looked to others, living with Samantha was healing for me. Then one day, an incident happened. It was raining all day, and I returned home from work as usual. Entering the house, I didn't hear Samantha's usual greeting. "Hi, you must be tired," I called out. "I'm home, Samantha." "Are you there?" I exclaimed, searching from the living room to the bathroom. I found her collapsed on the floor. "Samantha, are you all right?" "Hang in there." Seeing her unconscious, I panicked. In such a moment, all I could do was just panic. I managed to call an ambulance on my phone, and we arrived at the hospital. The diagnosis was that Samantha had suffered a stroke. It seemed I had found her just after she fell, which likely saved her from more serious conditions. The tests showed it was in the early stages, so medication and therapy were recommended. During the 3 weeks she was hospitalized, I visited her almost every day. I didn't feel like going empty-handed, always bringing flowers or some light snacks. She always modestly refused to accept them, saying it was too much. She even told me that it wasn't necessary to visit every day. But I just wanted to see her. She gradually got better, smiled more, and seeing her like that only made me feel more affectionate towards her. While she was in the hospital, I took the opportunity to clean the house thoroughly. When she came home and saw the house, she was surprised, saying, "I thought it would be much dirtier, but this is amazing," which made me happy. Those 3 weeks made me realize how happy I was just to live together in health. I was terrified of losing Samantha as well when she collapsed. Fortunately, she recovered and came back home safely. From now on, tell me if you're feeling unwell. I don't want to go through that again. Thank you for everything. If you hadn't found me, I might have been dead. Hey, stop it, even as a joke, I said in a flutter, which made her chuckle. Well, when I woke up, the first thing I thought of was your face. I dreamed of Emily. She was there. What did she say? She said it's not my time to come over there yet and to take care of you. I couldn't hold back my feelings any longer and took Samantha's hands. I agree with Emily. Samantha, can I stay by your side forever? She looked surprised. Why, John, what are you saying? She didn't mean. Yes, that's exactly what she meant. At least that's how I feel. John, I've felt this way for a long time. I'm much older than you, you know. I'll definitely become really older than you. I know that very well. I've just realized that age doesn't matter when it comes to feelings. John, you don't understand. You might think so now, but you'll regret it someday. That won't happen. My feelings won't change. Seeing you collapse made me realize how important you are to me. From now on, I also need to take care of you. Samantha was silent for a while, but then she gently squeezed my hand back. John, thank you. Can I really? Thus, we became a couple. Even so, we didn't formalize it with marriage, just continuing to live together. Yet I was completely content and fulfilled. I hoped that peaceful life would continue forever. However, as a man, I felt I needed to make things official at some point. I planned a proposal and even prepared a ring, but I was unsure when to present it. While I was hesitating, the first anniversary of Emily's passing arrived. It was a gloomy, cloudy morning from the start. After the annual commemorative mass at church, Samantha and I went home together. On a shelf in the living room, Emily's portrait was next to that of her father, Tom. We cleaned the shelf and portrait frames, putting fresh cut flowers around their portraits. They look happy, smiling, Samantha said, looking at the two portraits. Yeah, right, I replied. Clasping her hands, she closed her eyes next to me. Then she suddenly said, Tom, I'm sorry. I've fallen in love with someone else. Please forgive me. Saying that, she looked straight at me and continued, John, will you marry me? I was surprised, joy welling up to the point of tears. Samantha must have been thinking things through deeply. As we continued our life together, knowing Samantha felt the same way was the greatest joy. I hadn't expected such a confession that day and regretted not bringing the ring, which was in the safety box in my bedroom. Yes, with pleasure, I replied. Then, facing the portrait of Tom, I said sincerely, Tom, I'm sorry for taking Samantha away from you, but from now on, I'll do my utmost to make her happy. Emily, I'll be the one to protect your mom from now on. We smiled at each other. On Samantha's birthday the following month, I gave her an engagement ring. I knelt in front of her like in a romantic movie and slipped the ring onto her finger. She laughed and cried with joy. She said we didn't need a wedding, but I wanted us to have one. So we did it alone in a small church. In a simple wedding dress, she looked unbelievably young, easily 20 years younger. On the night of our happy wedding, she handed me a letter. This is from Emily. Really? I asked, surprised. It seems she wrote it before she died. I found it while cleaning out her room. It's because of this letter that I could propose to you. The letter said, Dear Mom, by the time you read this, I won't be in this world anymore. Mom, thank you for bringing me into this world. I was truly happy to be your child. I think I could have been the happiest bride ever with John, whom he brought into my life. However, my only regret is leaving you behind. Don't worry about me anymore. Please chase your own happiness. You know that John loved you, right? Please accept his feelings honestly. I approve of your love. This is my last birthday present to you from heaven. I'll always be watching over you too. Love, Emily. Had Emily known my feelings even before I was aware of them? Had I unknowingly hurt her? I was moved to tears after reading the letter. Understanding what I was thinking, Samantha said Emily didn't resent you, and I think she was genuinely happy being married to you. We owe her so much. Without this letter, I wouldn't have thought of being together with you. I realized why Samantha had sought permission only from Tom in front of the portraits. Emily had already given her approval, so Samantha thought it was okay. Going through our encounter and Emily's death, I deeply understood how precious ordinary days with loved ones are. Ordinary days are not so ordinary after all, but totally precious. Samantha, let's start anew. I will cherish you for a lifetime. Thank you. I will also cherish every day with you. There will always be uncertainties ahead. Each time, I want to think of the best way to overcome them together. For myself and for my most important person, I want to find the best path. My dream is to spend a happy life without giving up until the end. I've decided to cherish every moment with her, to live a life without regrets. 2 years into our marriage, now past 50, Samantha is still full of vitality. Our neighbors even say she seems to get younger. While working, I studied to become a caregiver, earning my certification. If Samantha ever needs it, I want to be the one to take care of her. That's why I wanted to prepare. One day this year, we were again in front of Tom and Emily's portraits. As you see, we've been getting along well. We are living happily. We both addressed the portraits. Just then, a pleasant breeze passed through as if Emily was gently smiling at us. Hi there, I'm Linda, and I'd like to share a story about my family's kindness and the unexpected challenges we faced. Growing up wasn't always easy for me, but I always believed in lending a helping hand. My family didn't have much, and we often struggled to make it to the end of the month. I had two younger siblings, and because my parents were constantly busy with work, I was responsible for taking care of them. Living so close to poverty, I developed a strong desire to help those in need around me. I studied hard and managed to build a life for myself. As the first of my siblings to start working, I wanted to make their lives easier. Every time I got paid, I sent money back home, which allowed my parents to work fewer tiring hours and spend more time with my siblings. As my siblings grew older and began to work, our family's situation improved. To continue sending money home, I picked up extra hours and worked diligently. My efforts paid off when I was promoted to the manager of my section, a position that came with many benefits and a good raise. Finally, I could relax and settle into a more comfortable life. With more time on my hands, I decided to take dating seriously. Although I'd been on a few dates and had my first kiss, I'd never had a serious relationship because I was always too busy. I signed up on some dating apps and eventually matched with a handsome man named Jake. He was a lawyer with a goofy sense of humor, exactly what I was looking for. We started texting every day and soon went on our first date, which led to many more. Jake turned out to be the perfect match for me. He made me laugh when I was upset and knew exactly when I needed a hug. He was also serious about his career, often sharing stories of his cases and the praise he received for his work. I was proud to be dating such an amazing man. So, when Jake proposed to me after 2 years of dating, I enthusiastically said yes. We got married a year later in a blissful ceremony surrounded by our beloved family and friends. Since Jake and I lived on the opposite side of the country from our families, we met many of each other's relatives for the first time at our wedding. One of these relatives was Jake's sister, Stacy, who was 9 years younger than him. While most people accepted me warmly, Stacy was a bit harder to win over. I approached Stacy while sitting alone at a dinner table. "Hey Stacy, why aren't you out there dancing with everyone else?" I asked. "I don't really feel like it. This whole event is kind of lame," she replied. "Is everything okay?" "Oh, everything's just peachy. I've got so much better things to do than be at this party." "Well, is there something else you'd rather be doing?" "If it weren't for you getting hitched to my special golden child of a brother, I could have been applying to universities and figuring out my own life." "Is this about Jake? Seriously, have you seen the way everyone in your family worships the ground he walks on? The accomplishments, the praise, it's like I'm invisible. I'm supposed to do everything on my own because that's how Jake did it." "I get it. It's tough when others' successes seem to overshadow your own path." "You do?" "Yeah, to some extent. But listen, no matter what, you deserve support and guidance. I'll help you find the best universities and figure things out." "Really? You do that?" "Absolutely. If you're willing, we can spend more time together researching and planning." "That sounds amazing. I can't believe you'd offer to help me, especially with all the expectations around Jake. You're your own person with your own dreams. I want to help you achieve them. Nobody should be left in the shadows." "Thank you, Linda. Seriously, no one's ever been this supportive. It means a lot." "You're welcome. I'll be here every step of the way, no matter what challenges come our way. Your journey matters just as much." Seeing how lost and sad Stacy looked reminded me of my own siblings, so I wanted to help her. After Jake and I enjoyed our honeymoon, I kept my word and helped Stacy find the best university for her. During this time, we became very close, eventually becoming best friends. Since Stacy's university was only an hour away, we hung out even more often. As the years passed, Stacy found herself a boyfriend in college. After they graduated, they got engaged. Stacy came over to our place the weekend after to share the news. She nervously told us she had something important to tell us. "Stacy, is everything all right? You seem really nervous," Jake said. "Yeah, don't tell me you're pregnant now," I joked. "Seriously?" "No, I'm not pregnant, Jake." "Oh, thank goodness. You guys really thought that?" "Well, you did seem a bit anxious, and when you said you had something important to tell us, our minds jumped to the worst-case scenario." "You two always assuming the worst," Stacy laughed. "Anyway, I wanted to share some good news with you. I'm engaged to my boyfriend. and we're planning to elope." "Wow, that's great news," I exclaimed. "Yeah, we were wondering if you could be our witnesses," she asked. "Well, that's quite a surprise. Are you absolutely sure about this decision?" "Why wouldn't I be? You don't want to be our witnesses." "It's not that we don't want to support you, Stacy. It's just, well, you're quite young, and getting married is a big step." "What's wrong with being young? Are you saying we're making a mistake?" "We're not saying you're making a mistake. We're just concerned because you're only 21. Life has so much more to offer, and people change a lot in their 20s. We want you to have the best chance at a successful and fulfilling marriage." "So you don't believe in us? You're not happy for me?" "That's not true. We care about you and want the best for you. We're just worried about rushing into something so serious. Give yourself some more time. If your love is strong, waiting won't weaken it." "You know what? If you can't be happy for me, then I don't need your approval. I'll find someone else to be our witnesses." "We're not trying to upset you. We just want you to make a decision that's best for both of you." "Well, clearly you don't trust us to make our own decisions. I thought you'd be happy for me, but I guess I was wrong." "Stacy, please don't leave like this," I called after her. She stormed out of the house. Jake and I tried to call and text her, but none of our messages went through. She had blocked us. We were beyond upset at the way Stacy had treated us. Until then, we had chalked up her rudeness to being a teenager who didn't know any better, but now she was an adult who knew what she was doing. For months, we kept trying to contact her in hopes of rekindling our relationship, but it didn't work. A couple of months later, we found out through Jake's parents that not only had Stacy gotten married, but she was also pregnant. Jake was devastated that Stacy was holding such a grudge against us for simply being caring. He was upset that his sister didn't come to tell him that he was going to be an uncle. I comforted him after the call with his parents. "You know, Stacy's still quite young. Maybe she was just trying to get our support because we're the closest family she has," I suggested. "I get that, but it feels incredibly hurtful that she didn't share something so important with me because of some silly grudge she's holding." "I know it's hurtful. She's like a sister to me, even if not by blood. But maybe she was just overwhelmed herself and didn't know how to approach it. It's not about her not telling me. It's about feeling left out of her life." "I know, darling. It's a complicated situation, but remember, you're going to be an uncle. Once the stress of the pregnancy is over, she might change her approach." I wish I could believe that. It's just hard to wrap my head around all of this. "I know it's hard. It's okay to feel hurt and confused. Let's just wait it out a bit longer. Once the baby comes, maybe things will shift." "I hope you're right. I want things to get better between us. But it's hard not to feel hurt. We'll work through this together, just like we always do. Stacy's going through a lot too, and her emotions might be all over the place." "I know, but it feels like we're on the outside looking in. We'll find our way back in. Family can be messy, but it's worth the effort to mend things." Within the next few months, Jake's parents told us that Stacy had given birth to a baby boy. Jake and I were overjoyed to hear the news. We couldn't believe we were now an uncle and aunt. Despite the hurt of not being able to visit Stacy, we decided to give her some time to heal before reaching out to meet her and the baby. 2 weeks after Stacy gave birth, Jake's mother called him, but he didn't pick up. So she called me. I answered the call and was greeted by the sound of crying. I immediately recognized the voice. It was Stacy. "Linda, I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart," Stacy sobbed. "Stacy, are you okay? What happened?" I asked, alarmed. "My husband, he left us. He abandoned me and the baby," she said through tears. "What? Why would he do that?" "He was scared of being a father. He just disappeared a week after I gave birth. I thought he'd come back, but he never did." "Oh my God, Stacy, I can't imagine how hard that must be for you." We went to bed together one night, and the next morning he wasn't there. It was weird because I was up at 6:00 a.m. to feed the baby, and he usually didn't wake up until late. I waited the rest of the day for him to come back or reach out to me, but he never did. I tried contacting everyone, but no one knew where he was. He ignored my calls and texts. When I threatened to involve the police, he told me he wanted nothing to do with us. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. Are you in a safe place?" "I'm at my mom's place right now, but I can't keep living here. I still have the place we rented, but I can't afford it on my own anymore. I don't know how I'll manage food for me and the baby." "Don't worry, I'll help you. We'll figure this out together." I don't deserve your kindness. I treated you and Jake terribly, and now you're here for me. You're my sister, Stacy. Family, I don't want you to suffer. We'll get through this. We all make mistakes, and right now you need support. I'm so sorry for how I acted before. I never should have treated you both like that. We're here for you. People can change, and you're realizing your mistakes. We'll help you get back on your feet. Thank you. I really appreciate this. It's going to be okay. We'll take things step by step, and I promise you won't have to go through this alone. I don't know what I'd do without you. We're family. We'll face this together. From then on, I began to send Sissy $2,000 every month. It was a small dent in Jake's and my finances, but both of us wanted to help Stacy out. After all, she was family. Our arrangement went on for a year. During that time, Stacy went back to work, and the extra money helped her immensely. However, her gratitude slowly shifted to entitlement. Whenever I was just a little late sending her the money, Stacy would call and demand it immediately. Initially, Jake was very upset about it. He talked to me one evening. "I'm starting to think Stacy's reverting to her old ways," he said. "What do you mean?" "It's like she's using us again. Like she's taking advantage of our help." "I get what you're saying, but we can't just abandon her, especially when she has a child to care for." "I know, but I wish she'd show some consideration. Just a little gratitude." "I understand your frustration, but remember, I'm not planning to support her forever. I'm waiting for her to stand on her own feet again." "Thank God. I was worried this would go on forever. We're doing what we can, but she needs to learn and grow too. We'll be there for her, but she has to meet us halfway." "Good. I like that." Then something unpredictable happened. While I was driving home from work one day, my car was T-boned by a drunk driver. By the time emergency services arrived, I had lost consciousness. I was lucky to survive, but I suffered severe injuries. I was in a coma for a week, and when I regained consciousness, I was too weak to do anything. I was stuck in the hospital for a whole month before I was deemed fit to leave. I walked out with a broken collarbone and a broken leg. I was just grateful to have survived. Jake was my rock during this time. He never left my side, even when I got back home. I had to force him to sleep because he was too terrified to lose me again. I also forced him to go back to work. My company gave me time off and allowed me to work from home when I felt well enough. But since I missed a month of work, I wasn't paid my full salary and couldn't send Stacy her allowance. Stacy found out I had been discharged a week after I left the hospital and called me. "Where is my money for last month?" she demanded. "What do you mean?" I asked, taken aback. "I'm talking about the payment you were supposed to send me. I'm due that money. You know I was in a car accident, right? I was in the hospital for a whole month." "Yeah, I know. That's why I gave you another week after you got out to pay me." "Are you serious? How entitled are you? Do you even know how much I've suffered in the past month? You don't know what suffering is. I have a baby to take care of. I can't afford to wait around for you to slack off on your responsibilities." "Stacy, I've been through hell. I wouldn't have been able to send you the money even if I wanted to." "Excuses, excuses. You're just proving that you're not really family, like I always knew. Family is supposed to support each other in hard times, not demand money without understanding." Then I hung up the call. I couldn't believe the audacity that Stacy had to call and demand money. I wasn't even obligated to help her. I was only helping out of the goodness of my heart. I didn't mind any of Stacy's entitlement earlier, but to not show any concern when I had almost died was beyond enraging. A couple of minutes after I cut the call, Stacy texted me saying that she had always known I wasn't part of the family and that not sending her the money proved it. She then told me she was going to show everyone my true colors and that I would live to regret my decision. When Jake got home from work that night, I told him about Stacy's calls and texts. Jake was furious. He couldn't stand Stacy's behavior. He tried to call Stacy and chew her out, but he quickly realized he had been blocked. I was emotionally drained from the day, so I told Jake to just let it go. A couple of days later, I was rudely awakened from an afternoon nap by a phone call from my boss. She told me that the company had received multiple tips stating that I had been financially abusing a family member and forcing them to stay at home. This was a big violation of company policy because I worked for a company that focused on family welfare. I assured my boss that I wasn't doing anything of the sort. My boss told me she needed to see proof and that until further notice, I was suspended from work. I didn't know what to think. Who could be spreading such stupid lies about me? In the middle of the crisis, my phone rang again, and this time it was Jake's mother. She yelled at me for treating Stacy poorly and neglecting her when she needed me the most. I couldn't even get a word in because as soon as she was done ranting, Jake's mother cut the call. This went on the entire day, with multiple family members either calling or texting me to inform me of how disgusted they were with me. I managed to get a hold of Stacy. She must have unblocked me. I tried to call her, but she didn't pick up, so I texted her. I asked Stacy if she had been spreading lies about me. Stacy replied that she told me she would make me regret not sending her the money. I tried to angrily text her back, but realized I had been blocked once again when my messages didn't go through. When Jake got back home, I showed him the text messages and filled him in on everything that had happened that day. I've had enough of Stacy's behavior. I'm going to make her pay for all of this, Jake said, his voice filled with determination. I know, Jake. Her lies have seriously hurt us. My job, our reputation with family, it's all at stake. There's no stopping me now. I can't let her get away with this. And I won't ask you to stop. I'm tired of her entitlement and manipulation. We've shown her nothing but kindness, and this is how she repays us. Linda, I've been thinking, what if we take legal action? A defamation case against Stacy. Absolutely. She needs to face the consequences of her actions. I'm with you on this, Jake. Let's do it. It won't be easy, but it's the right thing to do. We'll get through this together. We always do. Let's stand up for the truth and put an end to her lies once and for all. Over the next few weeks, Stacy was summoned to court for the case. She tried to text and call Jake and me, but this time we were the ones who blocked her. She tried to approach us during the trials, but we tactfully avoided her. In the end, the judge ordered Stacy to pay me $200,000 in settlements. Stacy broke down crying in the courthouse. I did feel bad, but I knew this was the only way for Stacy to learn from her mistakes. Stacy tried to spread more misinformation about Jake and me, but we sent everyone the records of the case and informed them of what had happened. Nobody sided with Stacy, and many refused to associate with her for fear of being mistreated by her too. I also sent proof of my innocence to my company, which got me back to my job. Jake and I truly felt sorry that we had set Stacy back by a lot by suing her, but it was the only way for Stacy to learn. In the end, Stacy's actions led to her own isolation and bad luck. Jake and I continued our journey together, bound by the lessons we had learned and the love that had always guided us. This incident showed us that even in the face of adversity, choosing kindness and standing up for the truth could lead to a brighter and more fulfilling future. Thank you for listening to me until the end.